What's up, guys? Welcome back to another TheSportUniverse podcast. It's me, Brian, and I'm joined with Nick.
What's going on, guys?
All right, so we have a lot of stuff to cover with basically all the sports going on. So I guess we'll just get into it. In terms of baseball, what?
We're at the what you would call it of sports.
Oh yeah,
when they all cross over the eclipse of sports.
Yeah, there's
like the eclipse.
Yeah, there's a day a couple of weeks ago where it was like all major sports were playing on the same day. I don't know what.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Well, it's not really if none of your teams are doing well. Okay, so in baseball, I guess our little World Series reaction since we haven't had. Well, actually, first off, I hope everyone had a fun Halloween. We didn't even talk about Halloween last time, which we should have mentioned. But okay, baseball. So World Series, obviously the Nationals won. In terms of, I still don't feel like I'm not like that mad about it. I feel like I should be a little bit more mad since I'm a Mets fan, obviously, but I think it's because it's not in my face. Like if like the Yankees had won and everything like that happened, it would have been in my face every single day, especially going to New York every day. I think I'm also happy that Bryce Harper, like, I don't even, is probably so mad at himself for leaving. Even though he says he's not, I'm sure it's, like, really bothering him that they win the year he leaves, which is definitely, I feel like, going to put, like, a bad mark on his legacy as a baseball player. The year he leaves the team, they win the World Series.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really see the Nationals as a big team next year that's going to do good things. I mean, they have a lot of key players leaving. Anthony Rendon, I'm sure, is going to find a new home. I don't think the Nationals are going to pay him what he's going to get. Steven Strasburg already opted out, which of course doesn't mean that he's not going to be on the Nationals next year, but he's also going to need to get paid a lot too, especially coming off him winning the World Series MVP. So I guess that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as you said a couple podcasts ago, it was the year of upsets. Mm-hmm. The Nationals take it. You know, my idea of the Houston Nationals sweeping, absolutely wrong.
I've been wrong about like everything that I've said.
Yeah, my roommate absolutely roasts me on that every single day. He's like, "What a sweep by the Astros!" I'm like, "Yeah, they swept in reverse."
I think in the beginning of the season, I was like complaining because everyone was saying that the Nationals were going to do so good this year, and I was like, they did nothing this offseason, and then they go and win the World Series. So I've been completely off about everything that I said.
Yeah, I guess it's just building a culture, and them Bryce Harper leaving such a superstar really helped them develop as a team rather than individuals. So the Nationals won the World Series. We're now in the off season of baseball. Also. With the Astros, you have a lot of players leaving too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Cole is probably going to leave. I don't see them being able to pay like similar to the Nationals. Hopefully, get him. But there's rumors he wants to be on the West Coast, but he was denying them. Who really knows where he's going to go? Yeah. There's a lot of players in this offseason that could change some stuff up.
That's definitely true. There was one more thing I wanted to say about the Nationals, but I forgot. Oh, yeah. I think they definitely had, like, a good season. I think they won, like, 93 games, but a large part of it was that they got hot at the right time, which is a big thing with any playoffs and, like, any sports, just getting hot at the right time.
For sure.
Off of the World Series, the Mets hired Carlos Beltran, which... I didn't really explain this well in my point of view that I did, but I'm excited that the name Carlos Beltran is now the Mets manager. I would have rather had Joe Girardi as my first choice, and then second choice, just someone else who had more experience over Beltran, and then I guess Beltran was my third choice. But it's an exciting name, which shouldn't be how you like base things, but after they lost out on Joe Girardi, I guess it's like an okay second plan. I'm sure, I can't even guess what he's going to do with the Mets, but I just hope that his legacy as a good Mets player isn't ruined if he does bad as their manager, because that's like a big worry for people. Like with Jason Kidd and the Nets, he did bad as their coach, and his legacy is not the same as it used to be, which is definitely an upsetting thing for fans and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I think, moving away from Mickey Callaway and going towards Carlos Beltran, although I would say that their experience doesn't differ that much in terms of their first year managers.
Yeah.
I just want two things are really key to the hiring of Carlos Beltran. He's going to be really good with the players. He's a really solid stand up guy, and I think he's really going to relate with the players well. He's going to be a good locker room guy. Quite a difference from Mickey Callaway from what we've heard. And then second of all, he's really young, so whether his stint works here or not, you could definitely see him again being hired somewhere else. Mm-hmm. He's only 42. And I think we were seeing, even from baseball to even like football, hiring McVay, there's a lot of these young managers that I guess teams are really looking for innovative minds to take the next step of, what's going to be what's going to be the next in thing for, either baseball, football. Mm-hmm. Teams are taking a shot on these young players to lead their teams, or these young people to lead their teams. And I don't know. I find it kind of interesting versus like somebody who's been around the league for years on years on years. Carlos Beltran over Joe Girardi, or having a McVay over McCarthy.
Yeah,
it's just it's interesting. It's a new move for sports.
Yeah, that is true.
I think we've seen it be effective in terms of like McVay, but how effective is it considering the fact that they haven't won a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I think, which does Mickey Callaway was supposed to be that person for the Mets when they hired him. I mean,
yeah,
he's old. I think he must be older than Carlos Beltran, but going into, when was that? 2 years ago. They were trying to find the Sean McVay for the Mets.
Yeah, Mickey Callaway's 44. He's 2 years older. Yeah. Not too much older though.
So they thought he was going to be the new in thing, but definitely didn't work out. I feel Mickey, everyone says he didn't have a good roster either year. This year there were a lot of injuries. Last year there were also injuries, and just their roster wasn't well built. But I think you saw time and again that his in-game decisions were bad. His obviously locker room interactions weren't the greatest either. So it was definitely the right time to do it. I just hope that Carlos Beltran can be a different type of mind, him being a first-year manager as well. Mm-hmm. What other off-season stuff did you want to talk about?
That was about it. I mean, I've talked about the Yankees in the past podcast. Yeah. If you guys want to hear about them, Didi Gregorius, I'd probably re-sign him. And there's a bunch of other people. But the Yankees did sign Aroldis Chapman to the extension.
Oh, right, I saw that.
I think it was a 1 year, $18 million. Not exactly sure I'm a fan. I guess the Yankees are just not sure of Betances. I guess that they're unsure if he's going to come back from injury healthy.
Did he have a good season last year, Chapman?
Chapman's been solid for us. Okay. He hasn't been as good as Betances has been, but I guess with Betances hurting himself, the Yankees are taking no chances, and they're making sure they have two closers on the roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw that Kenley Jansen opted in with the Dodgers, which isn't huge news considering he had a terrible season, but that's a pretty well-known closer that's off the market, so kind of important.
Yeah. Other than that, I think it's probably too early to speculate on who's going to go where. I guess we'll just, as the information comes in, we'll feed it onto the podcast, but we're not going to, I don't know.
It is going to be an exciting off-season, though, with all the big-name players.
It's not going to be a really good, definitive point to really make right now, considering the fact the World Series ended a week ago. Yeah. So only time will tell.
I think the awards are coming out soon, so that'll be something. I guess we'll get into the NFL. I'll give my little Jets thing, and then Nick will just give a rundown. Okay, so the Jets lost to the Dolphins today. What was the final score? It was
fire Adam Gates.
I mean,
just fire him.
He hasn't proven anything.
Yeah, 26-18, Dolphins won.
Okay, I mean, for him being an offensive coach, and they couldn't even beat the Dolphins, but is their defense considered better than the offense for the Dolphins?
Neither side's considered good. I know I know they picked up Christian Wilkins through the draft, and I think he's been pretty solid for them.
Yeah. Okay.
But they traded away Fitzpatrick, the Dolphins. They've kind of traded away all their talent. Kenyon Drake, he's gone.
So there's no excuse for the Jets. Okay.
Yeah, not really.
So Sam Darnold, I mean, did okay. He didn't get a lot of protection, which has been a common problem for the Jets. They had major meltdown plays. Like when I was watching specifically, they were down by 11. Was it 11? Yeah, and they were trying to make a comeback with 6 minutes left in the first play. I guess it was the center hiked the ball totally away from Sam Darnold when Sam Darnold wasn't paying attention. So not two things that you want to do as a center. I guess I don't really know where the blame is. Maybe Sam Darnold gave the signal. I don't know. But no part of that game was good for the Jets. The Dolphins get their first win of the season. I mean, it made sense that it's against the Jets. They just continue to show that they have really no talent. I mean, they have some talent, but like
Coaching.
Yeah, I guess it is coaching. I mean, Adam Gase has proven no reason for him to stay on next season. Obviously, I'm sure he is going to because I don't see them doing anything. But I mean, if they go 1-15,
I might fire him.
Yeah. I guess the whole goal is another tanking season for the Jets, which is a common theme for all of my sports teams. So
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the Dolphins and Jets since you just came off of that. In terms of the Jets, I would say that Adam Gase needs to be fired. They hired him considering the fact that he's known as a quarterback guru, based off of one of his years with Peyton Manning, and they did really well. And he in terms of his resume as an NFL coach, it's not been great. He's made the playoffs once.
Yeah, it's like literally nothing. Like I still don't know why they hired him, but whatever.
Yeah, people really believe in him. Making the playoffs once doesn't solidify you as a good coach. If you look at the rest of his seasons, they've been absolutely atrocious. The Jets have the talent to win. I wouldn't say absolutely, win a Super Bowl yet, but they have the talent to win. So if you get the right coach, you draft well, coming out of this season, I definitely could see the Jets then being a Super Bowl contender. Again, you have the individual pieces of talent. You just went out and spent X amount of money on Le'Veon Bell and the middle linebacker, can't think of his name right off the top of my head. I don't know, Mosley.
Yeah. What's his first name?
You have Jamal Adams, even though they might trade him in the offseason, which I think would be absolutely an idiotic idea. He's easily top 3 safety in the league right now, and he's only getting better. I don't know why we're going to trade him as a Jet, but yeah. So that'll be the rundown on the Jets. The Jets lose 26-18. They move to 1-7. The Dolphins find their first win of the season. They celebrated like animals pouring Gatorade on each other. They were very excited, which is a little weird considering the fact that they're 1-7. You should be a little more humble. You're still top 3 or bottom 3 teams in the league. I've talked about the Dolphins. That they're an absolute train wreck. They're gonna have to wait for the draft. Maybe find some new coaching. Something's got to change with the Dolphins. I'm going back to the start of the week. It was Thursday. The 49ers beat the Cardinals 28-25. The 49ers are hottest team in football right now. I wouldn't say the best team. That's still held by the Patriots. As they just got destroyed on defense. I'm watching them on TV right now. I'll get to them in a second. I'll get to them last probably. So the 49ers moved to 8-0. George Kittle is probably the best player in the NFL right now. If you look at ratings, he's the most efficient on the PFF ratings. He's been very good. The defense has been absolutely insane for the 49ers. They're the hottest team in football. Not necessarily the best, but the hottest team in football. They moved to 8-0. The Cardinals moved to 3-5-1, which I think is pretty solid considering the fact that they had such a bad season last season. Yeah. They picked up a rookie quarterback, Kyler Murray. I thought they drafted really well in the draft. So, the fact that they're 3-5-1 is, it's a rebuilding process in Arizona, and I think they're doing a pretty solid job at it. If you're a Cardinals fan, you can't be too angry at the fact that they're 3-5-1. Mm-hmm. You can't be that excited, but don't keep your heads down. We'll have to see how the Cardinals end up by the end of the season.
So it's all good.
Yeah. Moving on today, we had a really early morning game. Texans Jaguars. It happened in London. The Texans defense was absolutely superb today. Watson was solid as per usual, and DeAndre Hopkins wound up catching a touchdown. The Texans wound up beating the Jaguars 26-3. Texans moved to 6-3, and the Jaguars moved to 4-5. It's the first time we've really seen Gardner Minshew flustered since he's entered in the starting role. So we'll have to see how the Jaguars take it moving on to the next couple weeks. They're 4-5, so they're definitely one of those teams that's on the cusp of making the playoffs versus not. If they're gonna, Gardner Minshew and the Jaguars definitely got to bounce back from today. The Texans are looking like one of those really hot teams going into the next couple weeks and maybe into the playoffs. So they're definitely a team to keep an eye on, which is interesting. With them losing J.J. Watt for the year with the pectoral tear. So yeah, that'll be the rundown on the Texans and Jaguars. Moving on, at the Vikings and Chiefs. The Chiefs pulled it out in the nail biter, 26-23. They wound up kicking it for the win. The Chiefs without Mahomes, they're obviously very reliant on Mahomes, so they've been struggling to say the least on offense, and their defense is subpar at best. But Matt Moore's making it work. Tyreek Hill is such a talent. He's so fast and he's so hard to guard. You can't put him in man coverage, and Andy Reid will take apart zone coverage. So they're a really hard team to defend, especially on offense behind Andy Reid's scheme. So I think they get Mahomes back next week. So look for the Chiefs to really pick it up again. They're 6-3, and they're one of those teams that we'll have to see how they do. They're most likely going to make the playoffs, but will they be tied to the West again like they were last year, along with the Patriots? We'll have to see. The Vikings moved to 6-3. They've been pretty hot. Both teams, Chiefs and Vikings, can't be too mad walking away from this game. It was a really close game. Both teams are 6-3. It was a good game for both teams. You can't really look bad. You can't really look at this game like it was a bad thing. Vikings have a really good defense. Their offenses seem like it's clicking. The Chiefs are definitely a hard team to beat, so the fact that it wasn't as good as it usually is all right. I guess moving on from that, the Eagles wound up skimming out a win against the Bears. The Eagles moved to 5-4. They wound up winning 22-14. The Bears moved to 3-5. The Eagles are now the head of the NFC East. They seem like they're getting better as they're getting healthier. They're getting a lot better. So, if you're an Eagles fan, your team's on the rise. So this is a good thing moving forward. The Bears, as I've said, I think last week, that they really need a quarterback. Their offense was absolutely non-existent. I think they had the worst first half of football offensively since 2009. I'm not sure if that's for the whole NFL, but it's definitely for the Bears. They wound up totaling 9 yards in the first half in that game. It was, if you're a Bears fan, that's pretty scary.
Okay.
That the fact that they couldn't even generate double-digit yards in an entire half. The Eagles' defense looks really good. Again, as they're getting healthier, they're getting a lot of coverage guys back. So their defense is becoming better and better each week. Look for the Eagles to take a nice lead in the NFC East, in my opinion, going forward. Moving on, the Steelers wound up beating the Colts 26-24. The Steelers moved to 4-4, which is interesting considering the fact that they've lost Le'Veon Bell, they've lost Antonio Brown. They seem like a team that's kind of lost their identity, yet they're still 4-4, which is pretty solid. They actually trying to trade for Le'Veon Bell right before the trade deadline, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what they expected out of that. I'm kind of under the opinion that Le'Veon Bell just wanted his contract, and now that he's got his money, he doesn't really care what happens to him. He's going to go play because he's got his $100 million.
That's true. But there was animosity between the Steelers and Bell, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that they tried to trade for him. I really couldn't explain it.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see if anything more comes out of that.
Yeah.
Steelers actually, when they traded again, they wound up trading for Minka Fitzpatrick from the Miami Dolphins, and he actually wound up getting a 96-yard pick six for the Steelers today, which is interesting. For the Colts, they moved to 5-3. Jacoby Brissett wound up suffering an injury today, and Brian Hoyer stepped in. Jacoby Brissett's been pretty good for the Colts, so it's kind of a tough loss, but I think it's only going to be for a few weeks. We'll have to see how the Colts react to that. But, a small loss, 26-24 loss. I feel like no matter what your record is, you can't be too angry at that loss. You played a solid game. It was a close game. You win some, you lose some in that case. We'll have to see how the Colts react. I think Quentin Nelson wound up injuring himself too with, I think, 2 slight injuries between Kobe Brissett and Nelson. So we'll have to see how the Colts bounce back. In accordance to that. Moving on, Bills Redskins. The Bills moved to 6-2. The Redskins moved to 1-8. They're one of those terrible teams in the NFL that needs rebuilding. Final score was 24-9. The Bills have looked really hot. Josh Allen, since 2018, since entering the league, has the most rushing touchdowns as a quarterback, which is kind of interesting. It's not like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray, somebody you expect to run. I mean, given Kyler Murray's sense with the league, but Lamar Jackson really comes off the top of my head. I'm sure probably Lamar Jackson has the most rushing yards, but he doesn't have the most touchdowns, which is interesting. The Bills moved to 6-2. They're definitely a team I can see winning that wild card spot behind the Patriots. Let's run down there. Next game, the Panthers wound up winning 30-20. Panthers moved to 5-3. They're still without Cam Newton. They definitely each week they're like hot and then they're not. But Kyle Allen's 4-1 as a starter, so you can't be too mad. It looks like Cam Newton's going to be out for a longer period of time than people at first assumed. So he might be missing the season. We're very unsure. There's not a lot of news about it. He could be coming back in a couple weeks. Who knows? Again, Panthers are one of those teams we're going to have to watch at 5-3. That who knows where they're going to end up by the end of the season. Titans moved to 4-5. They're always mediocre every year. Again, I feel like they need a solid quarterback, and they definitely need to switch something up there because every year they're a mediocre team that's usually even record, makes the playoffs one year, doesn't the next year. Being mediocre is fine, but it's definitely not what you want to aim for. We'll have to see where they end up at the end of the season. My guess is they probably won't make the playoffs. Next game, we have the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. The Seahawks wound up winning in overtime, 40-34. The Seahawks moved to 7-2. Their defense is doing really well. After they acquired Jadeveon Clowney, they turned him from a solid team to a really good team. 7-2 is you can't complain about that, especially with the lack of talent the Seahawks seem to have. After they've lost Earl Thomas, they've lost Ken Chancellor, they've lost Richard Sherman. That was their defense is gone. They've lost a lot of offensive linemen. They've lost Jimmy Graham, and they're kind of in a rebuilding state, and yet they're 7-2. Again, it's in my opinion, it's all credits to Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll's ability to coach defensive schemes. And then on the Buccaneers side, they wound up losing to the Seahawks 40-34, which isn't so bad for a 2-6 team now. They're one of those teams that's like really good. They've been really good for 2 weeks, absolutely dominated the teams they've played, and the other 4 they've been absolutely horrible. Or rather 3 rather. Today was kind of their mediocre. They wound up winning losing 40-34. I talked about in the past, Buccaneers could really use a quarterback, and you got to give Bruce Arians more time. Moving on, we had the Raiders-Lions. The Raiders wound up winning 31-24. The Raiders moved to 4-4. They're a pretty drama-filled team. I really don't know how to feel about them. Jay Gruden, I'm not really a fan of him as a coach. They're 4-4. I really don't see them, making the playoffs. But again, at 4-4. You definitely have to watch for them. The Lions, who are 3-4-1 now, I feel like they have a better chance of making the playoffs, even though they're 3-4-1. They might win as a wild card team because the Packers have a decent lead in that division. Matt Stafford and Kenny Golladay were doing really well today. So as a Lions fan, you can't really hate the loss. Matt Patricia, again, I think I've said it in the past podcast, he's definitely a coach that I'm not really too sure of. He hasn't really had a winning record yet. He's supposed to be this defensive specialist, and he's yet to win, in a massive way. Moving on, Packers-Chargers. The Packers wound up losing today, upset by the Chargers, 26-11. Chargers moved to 4-5. They're gaining momentum at the right time, so they might make the playoffs. Who knows at 4-5? I think they have the talent to do it. They have Phillip Rivers back. We'll see where they go. As long as they remain hot, they should be all right. In terms of the Packers, you can't win them all. If you're going to lose to a team, Chargers may not be the best team to lose to, but it's not the worst. It's not the end of the world either. Not much to say about the Packers. They played decent today, but they definitely were outmatched against the Chargers. Moving on, this is the last game that's actually been played. We have the Broncos and Browns. The Broncos wound up taking one against the Browns, 24-19. The Broncos moved to 3-6. Allen, Brandon Allen, gets his first win as a starter, which I think is pretty interesting that they put Brandon Allen as a starter, considering the fact that they drafted Drew Lock this year. I would have expected Drew Lock to start, but he's not. I really can't put why. But as I think blanking on his name now. He's a sports announcer. He starts with an M. I can't remember his name. It seems like John Elway knows his quarterbacks or doesn't. He thought that John Flacco was going into his prime. And he was terrible this year, and now he was on the IR, so it's kind of funny. And the Browns moved to 2-6. I mean, we've talked plenty about how the Browns are suffering from a coach problem and an ego problem. As well as Baker Mayfield's been pretty atrocious this year. He's made bad decisions. He's been under a lot of pressure in the pocket, and he's been making some pretty bad decisions. So a lot of the losses are kind of on him as well, not only the coaching and not only the ego. So the Browns are kind of a mess. We'll see what happens to them, but I don't think they're making the playoffs at this point. And then the final two games, which one's being played right now. We have the Ravens and Patriots, which is the most anticipated game of the weekend. Patriots at 8-0, best team in football. They haven't really faced anybody of the caliber of the Ravens yet. And the Ravens 5-2. They've been a pretty solid team this year. So it should be interesting to see how they match up. I think the Ravens are winning right now, as they're playing as we speak. So we'll have to see how that game turns out. I kind of want the Patriots to win because I'd like to see a team go undefeated in my lifetime. I don't, as a Giants fan, there's not much to look forward to. So you might as well see something cool while you're at it.
That's one way to think about it. Yeah, sure.
We'll have to see how this game turns out, though. If the Patriots were to lose a game this season, I think this would be the right game to lose. It moved them to 8-1, and 8-1 is not bad by any means. And you lost to a pretty solid team. And I also think the Ravens are the right team to beat the Patriots because Lamar Jackson is such an X factor. He's so hard to scheme against. When his running ability and his ability to find people open deep, he's been such a good quarterback this year. Again, he's really hard to scheme around because he's so dynamic. We'll have to see how that game turns out. And the final game of the week, which is going to happen tomorrow at 8:15, Monday, we're going to have the Cowboys-Giants. The Giants are terrible. Nothing new there. I really don't see us winning this game. The Cowboys are going to move to 5-3. I don't think they're going to win out of the NFC East, but the Cowboys have definitely seen their ups and downs throughout the season. So, again, we'll have to see how it turns out. And that would be the NFL rundown for the week.
There we go. Hello. Okay. So, I guess we'll move into the NBA. I really have nothing to say about the NFL. So, first thing I want to talk about is the Steph Curry injury. He had surgery on Friday on his right hand? Either his right or left hand. And so he's going to be out for at least 3 months, which I spoke about is basically all the NBA season. So for the Warriors, it kind of puts them in an interesting situation. Obviously, they might still make the playoffs, but they're not going to be anywhere close to what they used to be. And for the fans, I'm sure it's a big difference going from a season where they had Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green to now just having D'Angelo Russell and Draymond Green. And from that, I wonder what they're going to do with D'Angelo Russell because they already said that their season is going to be planned out for the next draft. So their main goal is probably not obviously it is the playoffs, but they have a bigger goal of planning for the future. So D'Angelo Russell could be on the move. And I think I saw that the Knicks had called the Warriors about D'Angelo Russell, so that could be interesting. Do you have anything about that?
Oh, yeah. As a Rockets fan, I love seeing the Warriors being terrible. We'll see who the real bandwagon fans are. It's nice to see them being terrible.
Yeah.
I hate Stephen Curry as a player. He beats the Warriors every year, but, as a person, he's a pretty good guy, so kind of sucks for him to be out that long. Mm-hmm. And also Draymond Green's out. I think he's like game to game though, okay. Possibly week to week, so he'll be back soon. But all those players being out does allow for a Villanova player to get his due. Eric Pascal, who just got drafted out of Villanova last year, second round pick. He's he's been playing really well for them. I think he had 20-something points in the last game for them, so it's kind of nice to see him do good. In terms of the Warriors, I see them kind of throwing this year out. It does not seem like a good year for them. I doubt they're going to make the playoffs with the shape that they're in right now, but we'll have to see. Yeah. We'll really see if Steve Kerr is a good coach or not. I think it's one thing we'll see. And then second of all, I really don't see D'Angelo Russell getting moved until the trade deadline. And that's because, they're going to sell on hype. The Warriors are going to want to get as much out of as D'Angelo Russell. And when is the need for a player like D'Angelo Russell going to be the most? It's going to be for a contending team or a team that's really trying to make a difference at the trade deadline. With the need being higher, they'll be able to get more value out of him near the trade deadline. So I wouldn't expect them to get traded before then. But who knows in the crazy world that we live in today?
Yeah, that's true. To be honest, I don't really. I was gonna comment about your Steve Kerr thing. I don't really think he's a good coach, and I think that it's going to be something that's. The reason I don't think he's that great of a coach is we saw Luke Walton stepped in with the Warriors, and he was doing really well, and then he becomes the Kings coach, and obviously the Kings did really well last year, but I don't think Steve Kerr is anywhere close to what his record has been with the Warriors. Going off from that, we wanted to discuss some bigger NBA storylines. Storylines might not be the right word, but just like teams that are kind of surprising in a good way or bad way. First up, the Nets are 2-4 right now. Obviously, not having as much success as people. Obviously, it's the beginning of the season, but they're not having as much success as people thought they were going to have. Kyrie Irving's been playing pretty well for them. He had the first 2 really good games. I'm not sure what he's done since then. I'm sure he's done fine, but still not doing anything for the record, which is a big thing coming off the season they had last year and all the hype around the Nets. The Sixers are 5-0. Ben Simmons has been playing really well for them. Obviously, they have a very talented roster. They have Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Al Horford. Al Horford they added this offseason, so they have a very wide range of talents on that team and different things that everyone can do, which is why I'm sure they're 5-0. For the Timberwolves, they're 4-1. Karl Anthony Towns has been playing really well. We talked about him last week.
Also suspended.
Oh, right. I totally forgot about that. Yes, he is suspended, but he was playing really well.
So is Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Definitely.
Minor scrap was really nothing. There's like 3-game suspensions, but I feel like that was blown up in the news media way too much. That's all there is to say about it, really.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. But we talked about last week how Towns is a potential MVP candidate, but it's very early in the season, so we can't really talk. For the Warriors, they're 1-5. We obviously just talked about them. Their roster is not talented anymore, which is a surprising thing to say. Coming off last season, there's really, besides D'Angelo Russell, there's really no one that they can go to on that team. Maybe your Villanova friend, but other than that, their roster is pretty empty. I think a reason for that is that they had so much talent that they were just signing veteran players that could do little things for them to help them, and now they're left with nothing. Lastly, for the Heat, they're 4-1. To be honest, I don't know what player is doing it for them. One of their bigger players,
Tyler Herro,
and also
they also have a different rookie. I can't remember his name.
It's Kendrick Nunn.
Mm-hmm.
He's averaging 22.4 points per game. They also have Jimmy Butler, but they're a team that I at least didn't expect to do 4-1 and probably keep on doing well. But it's their younger players really doing it for them. You can go into your...
Sure, yeah. Just go, before we move into like my next section of the NBA, I think the Sixers are a really interesting team because they're such a tall team. They have a 6'10", 6'9" point guard. Al Horford, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris. It's such a tall lineup that I think that's what's really giving them their success right now. Obviously, they have talented players, but the fact that they also have the height too, it really makes them a hard team to beat if you don't have the offensive firepower to get past them on defense.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it really pans out over the season because, in my opinion, although that they have this height and they're 5-0 right now, it may come back to haunt them that they don't really have shooters on the team right now. Shooting is going to be their downfall. There's going to be points where they need to hit threes, and if they can't, they're going to lose games. So, again, we'll have to see how that turns out.
They lost J.J. Redick.
And in terms of the Heat being 4-1, yeah, it's like Tyler Harrow and Nunn. They've been really hot. It's been really cool. You know, Harrow's kind of the leader for Rookie of the Year right now, which kind of segues into something that I wanted to talk about. Actually, players that are hot. I'll start with that first. A couple of my heads, a couple of people that come into my head are Andre Drummond. He's averaging like 20 and 20. I think like 20 points, 20 rebounds a game. Near that, he's been quite insane. Harden's been kind of crazy. He's averaging like high 30s per game right now, even though his shooting percentages are kind of you know, and we've talked about other players too. Segueing from that, I think one thing that I've been seeing in the news media a lot lately, something that I wanted to address, is some really dumb arguments. There's so many posts that I see that are like, you know, most likely candidates to win MVP. Who's going to win MVP? Who's going to win Rookie of the Year? Who's going to win Sixth Man of the Year? It's so early for that. We're 5 games into the season. I think it's okay to like notice that some players are really hot off the get-go, but to say that people are likely versus not likely to win an MVP award right now is just way too early. You got to at least wait 20, 25 games into the season before you can make even an assumption of who it's going to be. So, yeah, that's that. So that would be like the end of the general NBA. In terms of the Rockets, we're doing pretty bad right now. We're 3-3. We're the best offensive in the league, but our defense is atrocious. We wound up winning. We beat the Wizards 159 to 158 in regular time the other day.
I saw that. That's insane.
We got blown out by 40 today to the Heat. Our defense is really bad. Harden's been really inefficient from shooting because people are playing him a lot differently this year. They're playing him on his hip, his left side, so he can't really get his jumper off, and they're forcing him to drive. And he's not. He'll do it, but he really wants a step back three. That's kind of his bread and butter at this point. And he'll try and force it when he doesn't have it because, again, they're purposely taking that away from him. And he's shooting like 10% from the three right now. It's been pretty atrocious. The Rockets definitely got to make some adjustments defensively, and I think, Harden's step back threes is kind of maybe something he and the team want to lean off of at this point. It's not being effective as it was last year. So that's my spiel on the Rockets. We're 3-3, so it's obviously the season's not over yet, but hopefully we can make some improvements and be on the more of the winning side going into the future.
Yeah. Well, the Knicks are 1-5. They just lost to the Kings. Like I said last week, their losses, except for obviously tonight's loss and their loss against the Magic, all of them have been like, they just don't have that player to finish out games for them, which is going to be a common problem for them this whole season, I feel, unless RJ Barrett or Kevin Knox becomes that player for them. They don't have like that shooter that they can go to get those final few points to get them over the hump, give them the win, because they've been playing like really well for the most part, and then they have those periods where nothing is going right for them. They can't make any shots, and it just completely throws off the rest of the game, which is going to be a big problem for them. I saw some things about people saying David Fizdale's on the hot seat. I think that's so stupid. I guess that
see a lot. I follow quite some Knicks fan pages, and they really want to fire Fizdale.
I guess that goes into the dumb arguments thing. There's literally no reason for that.
In terms of the Knicks, I just wanted to, before we're probably going to move into college stuff next. That's what we call it. In our outline, we call it college stuff. I think the Knicks have a really solid group that they're building, and particularly RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, and Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think they're a really solid three in terms of like starting three. They're really solid. If you could add maybe a superstar or a really good player like power forward there, I think the Knicks could definitely be a playoff team. I think that RJ Barrett, it's too early to say what he's going to be, but I can say what he is now, and that's a really good. He's a above average starting player in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Kevin Knox. I'd put him at slightly above, not as. I'd probably put RJ Barrett over Kevin Knox, but Kevin Knox slightly above average starter in the NBA, and then Mitchell I'd probably put him maybe in between Knox and RJ Barrett. Slightly better, or slightly better than slightly. Kind of hard to put it into words, but if you could think of it like a greater or less than equation. So again, I think if you could add like a star like D'Angelo Russell at point guard, and then maybe draft like a power forward with your first pick, it's definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Going into the future, and then if you got D'Angelo Russell, I think that would probably take up a max slot out of the two that they have. Yeah. So with that power forward slot, you could draft, or there's a lot of good options for the Knicks. I think either you can answer the power forward with the draft, or you can answer like point guard with the draft, or there's so many options you could do along with having that max contract slot that this season may not be great for the Knicks, but I think coming into the future, don't lose hope.
Yeah, there's definitely like. Now as a Knicks fan, you can see a direction that they're going in. When it was the whole Phil Jackson stage and everything, Carmelo Anthony, it just seemed like it was complete chaos. But now there seems to actually be a direction that they're trying to turn their team into, which is nice to see. I guess we'll get into college stuff. So
college stuff.
Exactly.
All right, here we go, Buccos. So major football games for the week. I'll just, in terms of football games, there's so many college football games, so I just like to cover the ones that are a little bit bigger. Auburn wound up beating Ole Miss 20-14. Auburn is ranked the 12th seed, so that was kind of a close game, good game to watch for the weekend. Crazy scoring game, with too close. There was a lot of close games this week. Cincinnati beat East Carolina 46-43. Cincinnati 17 seed. Virginia beat North Carolina 30-31. Memphis beat SMU 54-48. Oregon blew out USC, nothing there. I like to look for the close games or games that matter. Close game, we had Utah over Washington. Utah's at 8. Clemson wound up blowing out Wofford 59-14. They're at the 4 seed. Wake Forest beat out NC State 44-10, so they're in the 22 seed. Go Demon Deacons, even though they rejected me twice. What the hell, Wake Forest?
There you go. Yeah, you got back at them.
Georgia won. I guess the major game of the weekend was Georgia and Florida. Georgia wound up beating Florida 24-17. Florida fell back to the 10 seed, and Georgia makes its way back into the 6 seed. If you guys remember, they were, I think, the 3 seed until they lost to, I can't remember who they lost to. South Carolina. They got upset by. So they were up there. In terms of the rankings, top 5 right now, we have LSU at number 1 still, hottest team in college football. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, Clemson, and then number 5, Penn State. I forget who plays who later into the season, but LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, they're going to face some tough games going forward, so we'll have to see who wins in the top 4. But it's definitely the top 5 teams that are listed right there are definitely going to be in the playoffs, I would say. Where they end up are the teams that are going to be the top 4 playoff teams. So 4 of these 5 are going to be top 5 or top 4. Who it will be, I do not know. That's the AP poll. In terms of the coaches poll, Alabama's at number 1, LSU's at number 2, Clemson 3, Ohio State 4, Penn State 5. So yeah, that's your major college football for this week. In terms of Villanova football, I like to add this section because I go here. We lost again. Lost to New Hampshire. We're now 6-3. This season's kind of going down a mudslide. Hopefully they can pick it back up in the last 3 games that we have, all home games. So I'll be going to those games. Should be exciting.
Let me add NYU football section. I don't know what's going. I don't even know if they have football.
I don't think they have some sports.
They have no sports at NYU.
And in terms of college basketball, it's here. Villanova plays its first game on Tuesday, which I did not get tickets to. Kind of upsetting. We have a lottery system here. I'm pretty high ranked in the lottery, but again, it is a lottery system, so I did not get a ticket. My roommate did, and he has 0 points. Kind of pissed me off a little bit. I'm not trying to go without friends and stuff, so he might transfer the ticket. We'll have to see how that works out. Hopefully I can go to it. It's Villanova versus Army. Yeah, college football. college basketball rather. It's here. And the last part of college stuff, which will transition to our controversial topic, the NCAA is crazy. So this week, the board members unanimously voted for players to benefit off their names, likeness, etc. Essentially, player can sign an autograph. Players in a video game, they can get paid for it. If a college sells their jersey with the name on the back, they're allowed to get some cut of that. Great for the players. I think it's the right move. The NCAA makes billions of dollars a year off these athletes. It's time for them. I don't think they should make all the money in the world or as much money as the NFL players should, but it's time for them to get some of the cut. And I talked about how I think they should get paid, and this is one of the ways that they could do it. Transitioning off of that, total 180 from the NCAA allowing players to make money off of it. NCAA does not allow other business to make money off of their players. What I mean by that, little anecdotal story. So again, I go to Villanova, right? Every college has like their eateries that are around there, late night foods that people go out into the weekends after going to parties and whatnot. We have this pizza place right on the corner of the university. It's called Campus Corner, also known as Camp Co for the kids that go to Villanova. They actually have a delivery driver. I order Camp Co quite a lot. Pretty good stuff. I'm a fan. And this delivery driver, he has an Instagram. His Instagram, if you guys are curious, is going to be CampCo_driver_Villanova.
He needs to fix that username.
Yeah, he had to change it because he didn't want to be associated with Campco. I think Campco didn't want to be associated with him.
That's sad.
In case something went wrong. And essentially, on his Instagram, he posts when people tip him well. He'll post it thanking them. It's kind of like a community thing, but I don't know. I kind of find it neat. And so he, athletes that order Campco, he'll post them too. He'll thank them for tipping him well. Somehow, some way, the NCAA found out about it, contacted Villanova, and Villanova contacted him, and he received a letter of desist to stop posting the athletes, stating the fact that him posting the athletes is helping Campco's business out, and all businesses outside of the NCAA, what they have contracts with, they're not allowed to benefit off of players' likeness, names, etc. And the NCAA said he was doing that. So he got a letter of desist essentially asking him to not post about the athletes anymore, which I think is absolutely nuts. I mean, how is Campco benefiting off of him thanking them for tips? Yeah. He's already separated himself from the pizza place by itself. I just think it's ridiculous. Let the man thank an athlete on the internet for tipping him well.
Yeah, that seems like they're being too nitpicky about everything. I mean,
the greedy NCAA.
Yeah, that's
ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. I agree with you. There's the only reason that would be bad if this guy had hundreds of thousands of followers and
100,000 followers. He's less than 2,000 followers, by the way.
So I'm also surprised they were able to find that, but that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
When was that?
This is like a week ago now, or a little less than that.
So, do you know if it was before the whole?
I think it was before, yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, is a complete 180. But I guess that'll do it for our podcast. Nick, do you have any parting or / final words?
Sure. This week in the life of Villanovan, yesterday, I just want to talk about it. It's pretty cool stuff that I experienced yesterday. One of my friends from high school who also goes to school here with me, he puts together a Special Olympics event for volleyball here at Villanova, and I wound up volunteering for him yesterday, and I don't know, it's pretty interesting. These kids who have special needs, it really makes their entire year, they look forward to this day. Made me feel really good about myself, and beyond that, I don't know, it's nice to get back to communities and really make a difference in people's lives. Yeah. That was pretty cool. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Not really sure why, but hopefully brighten up your day. Also, kind of sports related. We did do volleyball with them.
Sure, it's a part of the sport universe.
Yeah. Other than that, the Ravens are absolutely demolishing the Patriots right now, up 17-0. kind of interesting. It's 14 minutes left in the second quarter, so we'll have to see how the game ends. We'll see what Belichick does to make changes, but you guys will see that after listening to this podcast. The game will be over, so we'll see what the final score is. Other than that, usual outro. This podcast is a work in progress. We try to make it better and better every week. We got busy lives, busy schedules, but I always make time for this every week. And Brian, obviously, he's he the CEO. Well, I'd say I'm more the CEO. He the actual owner. So he's always working on this. I'm sure Brian will probably talk about this a little bit in more detail. But we had another interview this week with a college basketball player from Davidson. I think these interviews that he's doing are really interesting. They ask some generic questions that you would expect in an interview, but like obviously we have to because we're a smaller company right now. I guess we could call ourselves a company. I don't know what we would call ourselves, but
yeah, me either. I refer to it as a media network.
We're a smaller network right now, so we have to ask some generic questions to get our foot in the door. Yeah. But I also think Brian asked some interesting questions. Go check the interview out. I'll let Brian speak about that. If you guys want to contact me on Instagram at nick.horvath. You can contact me on my email at nicholas.horvath10@yahoo.com or on my Twitter at nickhorvath61. That's my Twitter handle. Any questions, comments, concerns, contact me there. Leave it in the comments. Hopefully, look forward to seeing you guys. Our universe is growing, and I hope we keep growing. Keep making some good content. I have an idea for some content coming up. I haven't told Brian about it yet, so I'm probably going to talk to him about that.
What a surprise.
It'll be featured on our Instagram, probably. So, yeah, we'll see about that. Other than that, I'll hand it over to Brian. See you guys next week.
So, yes. Thank you, Nick, for the kind words. So, we had an interview with John Axel, who's a player at Davidson this week.
Gunmanson.
Yes, John Axel.
No.
I don't know how you pronounce it.
But I pronounce his last name. Cool guy.
I actually read it somewhere that his full name's actually John Axel and Gunmanson was added. I don't really know the whole story. But so yeah, we had an interview with him. That seems like a really nice guy. Referring to what Nick said, the way I look about it is we have to ask some generic questions because I can't just go out there and try to start up controversy or something by asking some weird questions, but then I try to incorporate some different things.
Interesting questions.
Yeah. Next week, hopefully we get the answers back, but we're doing an interview with Lisa C. Willis, who was just hired as the Westchester Knicks assistant coach and is the first female coach in the Knicks organization, which is pretty cool. So that'll be coming out hopefully Saturday. I can't force them to do it in time. Other than that, keep checking out our YouTube channel. I posted a Nationals video that isn't doing as well as I thought it would be doing, but I feel like it's one of my better videos, so go check that out. Daily content, like I've always said. So we'll be back next week with another podcast. Let us know what you thought about this in the comments if you want to comment. Haven't seen any comments in a while. But check out our videos on YouTube, Instagram, there's stuff, and also articles. So if you have any interest in those, the link will be down below. If you have any interest in writing for us, editing videos, graphic designs, I really want to try and get a writing crew together. That would be really nice. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, contact TheSportUniverse 2019 at gmail.com. And other than that, thanks for listening.